So hello Heidi, the first question actually goes that do you recall when you heard metal music for the first time?
Do I recall?
Yeah.
Yes, actually I do. So I used to live right next to a skate park. And my parents did not allow me to watch MTV or listen to rock or metal music, but I was a track athlete. So I used to go on a run, somehow end up at the skate park and meet up with my friends there. And I remember hearing metal music for the very first time at the skate park. And I remember falling in love with nu metal. It was during the time of nu metal, and that's when I first found Slipknot and Korn and System of a Down, and it changed my life.
Fun fact that I have the same kind of background and I'm born in the same year, so I guess
so we understand.
Yeah,
yes.
we understand this for sure.
Yes.
So what made you become a vocalist? Obviously you were doing that track and field before, but what made you a musician?
Well, I actually grew up in music, even though it wasn't rock music. My family, my dad's family, he's the middle of 12 kids, and they had a family band. So growing up, all of the family reunions, all of the marriages, anything that we did when we got together as a family was all centered around music. And so I grew up wanting to sing in every time that we got together and got to sit with the family and play music. In fact, in my parents' living room to this day, there's still a bunch of guitars set up, there's an electronic drum set, microphones. So my whole entire life was centered around music. All my upbringing, all my aunts and uncles, my parents, they're all musicians. And so it kind of just fell down the family tree.
So what made you become a screamer and join a metal band, because that's quite big leap from singing some Christmas songs or singing pop songs or singing pop rock songs?
Well, I really think that there's a passion here, and that's what it was for me. I found passion in metal music, and I remember, going to that skate park and hearing these songs, and the vocalist sounded like the feelings that I had on the inside. And so it was always a passion of mine. In fact, I remember one time my mom found a Korn CD in my closet and she broke it in front of my face, and you won't have that devil music in here, but now she's a fan of Korn, so don't worry. It was just that's where my passion lied. And when I first started this band nearly 15 years ago, I was still that angry young kid. I was still feeling those emotions and escaping from the religious background that I came from. And you can hear a lot of that anger in the first couple of Butcher Babies albums.
So what kind of early memories do you have when it comes to screaming?
Oh man, I remember I was living in Los Angeles, and I remember driving my little Honda Civic throughout the hills on Mulholland and screaming to Rob Zombie. Okay. And I remember finding my own scream by listening to these artists that I respected and that I loved, and screaming along to them in my car. One of my favorite things was, taking a long drive and singing along and screaming along, and I think it also centered me. I think that was a part of my therapy for myself in my early 20s, and to this day, I still love taking long drives and screaming along to bands I respect.
So were there some specific vocalists that you looked up to when you started screaming, and were you sort of first mimicking them before figuring out your own way to do things?
Interestingly enough, there wasn't really any females. There weren't very many females in extreme metal when we started. Of course, Arch Enemy existed, and there's several, about a handful of popular extreme metal female vocalists. But I was more so inspired by, I think, the intensity behind, the Corey Taylors and the Jonathan Davises of our community. But of course, Maria Brink was there, and I remember seeing my boyfriend at the time was like, "Hey, I found this band, and it has a female screamer, and she's a blonde," and I listened to it. I'm like, "Wow, this is exactly what I do. But I don't really know if it was really an emulation of any sort. I think it was just trying to feel the passion behind it. And yeah, I could never sound like the dudes, but definitely as the years have gone on, and 15 years into my career, I found my own scream, and I'm very grateful for all those 15 years of growing as a vocalist.
So did it take like a long time to figure out the right technique for it so that you wouldn't lose your voice?
You know, not really, because I think as a trained vocalist beforehand, you do learn the proper techniques that are the same in screaming as it is in singing. And I was one of those that, pulled out the Zen of Screaming DVDs from Melissa Cross, and I was going over the different techniques of, of the famous vocalists that she worked with, like Randy from Lamb of God and Phil from All That Remains, and so many of these amazing vocalists. And it was a lot of the same stuff that I had learned just throughout my years of singing, my vocal lessons in choirs and just even in the car.
So was like Butcher Babies your first proper band, and did you like immediately started writing your own music, or did you start by playing covers with the band?
No, Butcher Babies was not my first band. Carla and I actually were in a band together prior to Butcher Babies, and that was a cover band. It was punk metal covers. We did some Black Flag, we did some Metallica, some Marilyn Manson, some Misfits, and with that, I was allowed to get on stage and do this scream that I had been doing in my car all this time. And like I said, it was a cover band. And so deciding that, I wanted to start releasing my own music, that's when I created Butcher Babies. But I had been writing music my entire life. There was a band that I had in Salt Lake City, in the very early 2000s, and we never played shows. It was just band rehearsal all the time. There was never an opportunity to play shows. But as soon as I got my feet wet in playing live music, I knew that there was no turning back. That was where I was meant to be.
So what kind of experience it was to play the first show and scream in front of an audience?
Oh man, I remember the very first show of that old band, and we had practiced a lot. And when we would do rehearsals, it was full dress rehearsal, full show, headbang, figure out our moves on stage, and I remember that first show and looking into the audience, and of course we're playing covers so people knew those songs, and seeing people sing them back with us and the passion that they had and the energy that we gave back and forth to each other. That's a moment that I will never really forget, because that's a moment when I realized that I had made the right choice, that this is where I was going to be. And prior to even starting doing this, I was a radio DJ for 7 years. And I thought that I was going to be a radio DJ for the rest of my life. And when I started singing live music, radio DJ took a giant backseat.
And now you're here screaming your lungs out in Finland. So.
Yes, and I get to do the exact same thing. I get to look in the crowd and see people's faces and see them singing these songs with us, and seeing the emotion that another person has for lyrics and music that came from my heart. And I feel incredibly lucky every day that I get to stand on stage and do that.
So let's speak a little bit about the current tour and you handling basically double duty as a vocalist.
Yeah.
So how has it been? Has it been like a weird experience and new
it was
experience?
At first. Yeah, it was. I mean, in 15 years, I've never played a Butcher Babies show as, the only vocalist. We've done this all together as best friends, and we love it, and the energy we have on stage is super unique and very fun. So I was very nervous the first couple of shows, but as time has gone on, become comfortable with it, and it's almost like playing in a different band. But I've definitely put a lot more focus on my vocal recovery, sleeping. I don't drink alcohol when there's shows to be had. So it's definitely put a lot more focus in my mind on making sure my recovery is up to par, because it is double duty.
I was actually going to ask you next about that how different has it been like when it comes to recovery, but I can imagine that it's like very different than having like 2 vocalists on stage and you have like less to sing per night.
Yes, less to sing and more places to breathe. I mean, our music is definitely written for 2 lead vocalists to bounce off of each other. So there's not a lot of space to really breathe. And so my muscle memory for songs that we've been singing for 10 plus years, my muscle memory at first was very thrown off. Like, this is where I'm supposed to breathe. Where do I recover? So on stage, learning where to sing and where to breathe, that was definitely a different animal. But recovery-wise, you know, when everyone is downstairs in the downstairs lounge telling stories late at night, I have to get in bed and take a melatonin and go to sleep, because that's the only time that my vocal cords get to rest.
So when it comes to like now the live show, were you like thinking about like having also backing tracks, like Carla's vocals as backing track, or was it like straight away that you will handle that all?
I feel like that'd be very weird to have another lead vocal on backing tracks. That's
no. So that was never an option for you? Absolutely
not. Okay. No, never. That'd be super weird. And how elementary would that look to the crowd too?
Yeah.
You know, I've been a professional vocalist for so many years now. I decided to take the challenge myself, and I'm very glad that I did. And the shows have been fantastic. The shows have been super great. You know, we definitely miss my best friend, you know, but we're carrying on, and it's a blast. We're having a great time.
I must say that you have kicked ass on this tour.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So in terms of like the first proper tours that you did with Butcher Babies, were you ready as a vocalist to do like show after show after show, or was that like a new part for your journey as a vocalist?
Well, I think going at it with the correct technique, I was ready, and I never really lost my voice to the point of having to cancel shows or anything. I think what I didn't, in the early years, I think the thing that I didn't do is allow myself, you know, I would drink a lot of alcohol, and alcohol dries out your vocal cords, or different types of alcohol.
That's the worst.
Yes. And as, you know, as I've progressed, as I've grown up, I guess you can say, I've grown up in front of everybody now, but as you can see, you know, it's the party at night has definitely taken a back seat to the focus on the shows. But beforehand, I was just a kid. My body does crazy things. Everyone's body does crazy things as a kid that you can't really accomplish as an adult. Yeah, I was able to stay up all night drinking and still get up and play a show the next day.
Yeah, now our hangovers last for 3 days. So.
Exactly. Or it was. My mentality was just a little bit different in regards to what it meant to be a rock star at the time. And that, you know, the rock and roll, the party was definitely there. I never did any illegal drugs or anything like that. But with alcohol, I definitely would stay up all night and drink. But I was fine. I was able to do that. But nowadays, I think I definitely respect my vocal cords a little bit more.
So in terms of like warming up for show, has that now changed when you are handling all the vocals on your own, or do you have the same kind of routine that you still follow?
The same routine. Yeah, it's the same routine. Even though, you know, when Carla is here, so there are both vocalists, even then I still hit the low gutturals and the high highs, and I sing, and it's still the exact same, just a little bit less of it. So I definitely need to warm up completely, fully. And when I'm warming up, It sounds like I'm summoning demons. It's I'll walk around backstage and people will be like, what is that sound? But it's the same for me. And I think a lot of it has to also do with routine. When I'm doing these warm-ups, my body just goes into show mode. My body goes into, all right, we're getting ready. You know, my body becomes a little bit more loose. Everything becomes a little bit more loose in here. So doing the same warm-ups is definitely key.
Does it require like less warming up if it's a long tour?
Yes. Yeah. And that's an interesting question because that's something that I've definitely noticed throughout all these years.
Yeah.
Towards the end of a tour, I can warm up in definitely a much shorter amount of time. When I am getting ready for a tour, I start about 2-3 weeks before a tour, rehearsing, warming up daily, doing these different exercises just in my home to try and get my vocal cords ready for that. It's just like I say, you can't go run a marathon if you're just a sprinter all the time. You have to really work towards it. And coming from a track and field athlete, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, for sure. Are there like some specific foods or drinks that you try to avoid before the show that you have felt that they affect your vocal cords somehow? Or on the opposite side, something that you want to take before the show that you have felt that it helps actually you?
Yes, so things that I avoid, red wine. Red wine for me dries out my vocal cords and it's a no-no for me on tour. When I'm at home, I love a good Malbec or a Tempranillo. A dark red wine is my favorite. But on tour, that's just a no-no for me. In fact, whiskey is a no-no. Tequila is a no-no. That's kind of where we fell into this love of Jägermeister on tour because it seems like it's almost a throat coat. And so if I'm ingesting alcohol, a lot of the times it'll be Jägermeister, but or beer is sometimes okay. But things to have for sure is ginger. I like to have ginger tea or even suck on a piece of ginger. That helps so much. I think every vocalist can attest to, their throat coat tea or, throwing a piece of ginger, a piece of lemon in there, putting a spoonful of honey down your throat. Little things like that are definitely a go-to. In fact, today, it's our first day in Finland, but on this tour, but today I walked up and I saw some raw honey and immediately I'm like, ooh, yep, spoonful of that's going down my throat later.
So you have obviously released like 4 albums with Butcher Babies, and the latest one is obviously a double album, but I count it as one. So are there like some specific albums where you have felt that you have taken like big step forward as a singer?
I think each one is a progression from the one before. And man, I wonder how many people say this, and I'm assuming probably a lot, but I can't even listen to our first album. To me, hearing my vocals on that first album is I'm such a different vocalist now. Like, so different. I was so unhealthy when we recorded that first album. I was bulimic. I was an alcoholic, all sorts of stuff. And it was just I listened to it and I can hear the immaturity in my voice for it. And as each album progressed, and I was also a smoker. I was a chain smoker. I smoked cigarettes back to back to back. I didn't actually stop smoking until after our third album. So if you listen to the difference in our third album to this newest release, you can hear a night and day difference. And it sounds almost like a different vocalist. And I give full responsibility to that for me quitting smoking.
And I guess that also helps a lot with the breathing if you stop smoking.
Yep, yeah. The reason I actually quit smoking was because I found myself digressing as a vocalist. And I know there's still a lot of vocalists who smoke, but it just wasn't working out for me after 10 years of smoking. I knew I was damaging myself. So in order to maintain myself, and looking back in 2017 when I quit, it was the best decision I made, and definitely saved me as a vocalist.
So the latest double album is Eye for an Eye, Till the World...
Till the World's Blind.
Till the World's Blind.
Yeah.
Difficult. So are there like some new things vocally that you did on this latest album?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. As I said, like when I quit smoking, I opened up portals to different ranges that I didn't know that I could accomplish. I mean, you know, the death metal growls to the high highs, and I mean, even singing wise, there's some beautiful emotional moments on both of these albums that I'm so incredibly proud of. And I don't think that I was as strong of a clean vocalist, of course, when we started this, but even though that's what I was trained in as a kid. But as the years have gone on, I've definitely found my love for clean singing again. And you can really hear it. And on this album, there's a range in the song Beaver Cage. The high harmony in that chorus is just... I remember recording it and surprising myself that, okay, wow, I can hit those notes. That's cool. So, so I definitely, like I said, unlocked some portals, unlocked some, I guess in gaming perspective, unlocked some levels to my voice that I didn't know that I had. And I would also like to thank Josh Schroeder, our producer, for helping me find that, because he was like, you can do this. Just focus on your breathing, focus on this, and go in and hit it, and I did, and I'm very grateful for it.
So you seem to like challenging yourself when you are recording albums.
Oh yeah, I love it, and it's fun working with producers who know how to push a vocalist, because I can now do a lot of these things even in our live show that I couldn't do back then. So.
Do you have a specific way to hold the microphone when you perform?
Yes. I mean, I do it accidentally. I kind of grab right here around this, and I open my fingers. That's kind of like, this is not the way you should hold a microphone, but that's the way I fucking do it. And during the show, sometimes I'll like, put your hand down here. I'll have to remind myself.
So your mixing guy is pointing down, like, put your hands down.
No, they're very used to metal vocalists doing that. In fact, recording this album, our producer, there's some awesome parts on the album where he said, okay, we're gonna get disgusting here. I want you to cup this microphone. You cup this, and what it does is the sound bounces around. And it creates a whole different sound than, especially if you're doing a guttural, it creates an entirely different sound. So sometimes cupping the mic, it helps with a specific sound that you're looking for.
Yeah. I have a few questions left, and the second last one actually goes that what were your parents' reactions when they heard you screaming your lungs out?
Well, when we started Butcher Babies, you know, in 2009, so like I said, almost 15 years ago, my attire was not really something that my family was really excited about, I guess you could say. And we did it with the punk rock mentality. I mean, in the essence of Wendy O. Williams getting up there, and it was more about, you know, this is in your face. Don't tell me what to look like. Don't tell me what to sound like. I'm gonna get up here and, you know, fuck the world. I'm 23. I know everything. I'm 23. And that's exactly, you know, how it was. And I think I was a little bit of an embarrassment for a while. I grew up in the Mormon religion, and I think it was definitely a little bit of an embarrassment. My mom and dad didn't really talk to me for many years, but once they saw it live and they understood what it was and they saw the passion behind it, they understood. And my family's my biggest cheerleader now. We just were able to play a huge amphitheater this summer in Utah with my whole entire family there, my nieces, my nephews. Everyone got to come see, you know, us in action, and you know, it's amazing to have that respect and not just for my parents, but for my siblings, for them to bring their children to come see our show, and they play our music videos and at home and send me videos of my nieces and nephews headbanging and stuff. So to have that respect from my family, I think, is my biggest accomplishment as a metal artist. And my mom and dad stood side stage and watched Gwar with me. You know, my mom has come to festivals and stood side stage and watched Korn, the album she broke in front of my face. And to see my parents find a love for heavy metal that I found as a kid, and they found it now, and they respect it now, is really, really incredible.
You've done your work right.
It's just like, I brought him over to the dark side.
Last question. Any kind of advice that you would like to give to a young metal vocalist who's just about to start the journey?
Yeah. Challenge yourself 100%. And perseverance. Perseverance is the number one thing. Almost everybody I knew, except for my 5 band members at the time, told us no. No, no, no. Females don't belong here, or you're not good enough, or look at you, you don't look like you belong here. Everyone told us no, and people still continue to tell us no to this day. And it's just a matter of perseverance and hard work. I'm still evolving as a vocalist, and as I stated, my last album is my favorite vocal performance. And you know what? I'm looking forward into the next album, taking it even further. There's always a journey. There's always more to learn and grow and experiment. And so keep doing it.
Thanks a lot for taking the time.
Thank you.